You are tuned in to a fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a fireside chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight, my guest is Roy Anthony Shabla. Roy returns after a short hiatus of about 4 or 5 years to discuss his recent grand opening in Long Beach of his art show in Southern California. But the last times we've conversed, he talked about his books of poetry. He's a healer, a psychic, and a poet, and is involved with all things raising consciousness and spirituality at www.blesstheworld.com. There, he has a site of natural and holistic healing, wellness therapy, and spiritual rejuvenation. He's the founder and spiritual healer, feng shui master, and meditation teacher, and his work has changed the lives of thousands of people. So if you're interested, go to his site where you'll find powerful spiritual remedies and healing treatments, or attend his grand opening on Saturday, October 8th at 6:30 p.m. at Marie's Wine Bar. Art on the Vine wrote a big column about it. It's in the blurb right here, right now, and I'll leave it up for several days. So before I get too windy and, there's no time for Roy to talk, let's welcome him back to the show. Hi, Roy. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me back, Lance. It's nice to be with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago that we talked the last time, and it seems like it's an eternity. Does it seem that way for you?
It does seem like an eternity, and I was trying to remember that last show that we did. We were talking about the upcoming presidential elections, and we were talking about the state of the economy, and look at everything that's happened since then. It's been quite a whirlwind of a few years.
Oh, no kidding. And you live right down in Southern California. Are you still in Los Angeles?
Yes, Downey is a suburb of Los Angeles, and that's where my show is tonight.
And it is tonight. Well, that was why I was so excited to have you back on the show tonight, because it's all kind of timed synchronistically with my life and your life, and those wheels or spirals seem to be coming around again on a much higher level for both of us.
Absolutely.
Were you doing your artwork back when we were talking about your wonderful books of poetry and your other work that you do?
Yes, I've been making art all my life, basically, and I was, showing work at that time. But right around that time, probably before we spoke, I started working on large canvases, and it's been about 6 years now I've been working on large canvases. And so the show this evening, the smallest canvas is 6 feet by 5 feet, and the large canvas is 14 feet. And so it's kind of a relatively new, the last 6 years that I've been working on a much larger scale.
Wow, that is amazing. Now, having done art and being an artist myself, what medium are you using?
So I paint on the floor.
Okay.
So either stretched canvas or unstretched canvas is on the floor, and I use latex paint. I have the paintings are layered up many times. There are long drying times for some. The 14-foot painting took over a week and a half to just be able to, get it to that I could slide it, because once again, a 14-foot painting painted on the floor is taking up the entire large living room.
Right.
And so it kind of puts other aspects of your life on hold, such as entertaining or, and teaching class and, those kinds of things. And so working that way, I usually time things that, okay, if I start on Monday or Tuesday, it can be dry by the end of the week when I have to have, teach meditation class on Sunday, when I have to, have guests or something like that over. So it's a little bit tricky sometimes to move things and paint and get everything adjusted, but it's wonderful.
It sounds like it. I mean, our life is our canvas, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the bigger my canvases get, the bigger my life gets.
I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm looking at your paintings now on the blurb that comes up on my site. Mm-hmm. And the one that really just grabs me is the one in black and white. I mean, even though it's a reproduction through the internet, I'm getting stuff out of that. How many times did you have to layer that, and do you know what you're doing, or do you paint intuitively? Do you have a kind of an idea of what you want to convey? How does that process work?
Well, I always think that if you have an idea of what the painting's going to be before you start it, you're in for a big disappointment. I have an idea of what I'm doing, but I don't know what the painting is going to be. Because it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration with spirit. It's a collaboration with the physics of gravity, and so there's science to it. There's spirituality to it, and there's sometimes me just getting out of the way. So my hands are in it, but it's what's pushing my hands, and what's there's a lot more involved than just me. So I can't really say I know what the painting is going to be before I start it. I just have an idea of what I want to do, and then I just see how it all comes together. It's a very interesting thing, because people will look at paintings occasionally in early stages of them, and they'll tell me, "Oh, it's done, it's beautiful," but when I actually do finish it, then they amend their thoughts and okay, now I see it's done. Yes, it is beautiful. It's very interesting that because it's not their work, they don't have a sense of how it's going or where it's going, but it's right when it's right. And so when they come back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That does seem to be the creative process. It's almost like a fluid, perpetual motion, and I know I experienced that when I wrote my book, Tales of Zany Mystic. Shameless plug there. And in my life now, as I'm cleaning my own property and planting vegetables, it just seems to be like a huge canvas where I'm just guided to the next thing, and a bird feather will lead me someplace else, and then I get validation from something else, and it's just this endless trail of spiritual breadcrumbs. And life is actually starting to become exciting and to unfold in front of my own eyes. So I think I'm finally getting out of my own way, as you said, and experiencing that creative expression.
I always feel like you start to enjoy your life when you stop fighting with it.
Right.
That seems... Yeah. So I'm just telling you about my living room where I'm painting, and so I have to adjust, people coming over don't necessarily adjust to the schedule, because my house is very bohemian, and people kind of come and go and visit. Even though I'm a hermit, I still, have people coming and going, and so I've started, as you're talking about your garden, I've started entertaining in the garden much more, and my garden is lovely. I mean, it's like a lush. In the suburbs, everybody has, a manicured lawn and one tree. And I have no lawn. I have plants everywhere. Wow. And it's just lovely to sit out there with a bottle of wine and talk to people all evening.
It sounds wonderful.
Painting in the front room has really expanded my life by, spending more time with people in the garden, and it's just so wonderful to do it.
Wow. Well, you've just seeded some wonderful ideas for me and given me a whole new awareness of what I can do when I have people over, because I'm facing that situation now where everything is in turmoil as I'm beginning to remove the things that are no longer serving me. and what is the light that is there behind it, or the field or the nothingness, is emerging as the brilliance. And so I'm wondering to myself, well, now where are people going to go? They can't sit on the couch. They can't. I've got, so you know what I'm saying. But I wanted to focus in on what you said about when you stop fighting with yourself. Do you feel, and I'm sure that, well, let me just ask you, do you feel that goes on a global scale as well, that when we stop fighting with ourselves, that the wars that will start to just evaporate as the illusion and denial that they are?
I absolutely do believe that. You know, when you think about our we've got revolution going on in this country right now. Many people do not know it. You probably do. The Occupy Wall Street that is now occupying many cities in the country and around the world. They are doing this. So we've got this kind of revolution. Well, it's really this. It's in some ways it's very rational. People have gotten to the end of their rope, but there's a rationality to it. Why have economic conditions gotten? Well, because somebody is looking out for themselves in the small way, instead of thinking of themselves as a global entity. If we thought about ourselves, what would you do if you were on the other side of this? Would you be so greedy, or would you be? Everybody wants to make money. There's nothing wrong with having a nice life, being able to pay your bills, being able to paint the walls, or your paintings, if that's, if you need to do it. I think that where the inequality comes in is this gross imbalance. And what happens is, when you get to a certain level of income or fame, or some place that puts you in this elite, you also become insulated from the rest of the world and what the common person is going through. And I think that the ability to see more globally will relieve a lot of these quote unquote wars that we have, actual physical wars, and that we have more going on now than in the past. And yet they're not really on our news. They made a law several years ago that we were not allowed. The news was not allowed to show the bodies coming back from Afghanistan and from Iraq.
Right.
And during the Vietnam War, every night on the news you saw the coffins coming in with flags on them. But we're not allowed. The media is not allowed to do that anymore. And
one reason may be because they're guarding the various mafia and drug trades for the elite and the royals, and so they really don't want people seeing how that happens. It's kind of like a smoke and screen thing, and the various agencies are, importing drugs and selling them. So,
well, of course, it's very interesting. The war in Afghanistan. So, basically, why are we still there? What we've been doing is fighting the Taliban itself more than trying to find this specific person, that specific person. The reason it seems that the government, whatever entity it is, has wanted to reduce the presence of the Taliban in Afghanistan is because the Taliban were keeping the heroin down. It's against the religion for drugs. So it has been going down. Over 90% of all the heroin in the world is coming from Afghanistan now. And it's coming out so much that it's very cheap. So you have a whole new wave of addicts starting, and people are making tons of money off of heroin because the American military is suppressing the Taliban that kept heroin down. So it's a very interesting situation. We look at it. I'm not as much of a political person as you would think. If you remember from the last broadcast, I'm interested in peace. I'm anti-war, and I'm interested in ecology and human rights. So I'm more interested in those bigger issues than how much taxes we pay, if the roads get fixed. I always figure that the people who are interested in nuts and bolts will take care of the nuts and bolts. And the people who are interested in, the more ethereal things will take care of the more ethereal